When I was a little girl, the only monsters we knew to be afraid of was the occasional Loch Ness monster, silkies, and fairies. Each, of course, a legend of some sort. However, after remembering this event that happened to my friend and I now realize that monsters do exist. It was on a calm, crisp morning, just before the sun rose at dawn. Bella, my best friend, and I went towards the dock. As we stayed close to a lake, we would go there to watch the sun rise up over the horizon. The cool morning air and beautiful ambience that surrounded us truly mesmerized me. Yet, no matter how hard I tried to focus on my surroundings, I couldn't help fight the feeling of fear that would wash over me, as if something was about to go horribly wrong. Had I listened to that feeling, maybe I wouldn't have this experience. As Bella and I walked on the beach next to the dock, we began to hear a horse neigh, almost as if it was in pain. Just then, we noticed a figure on the dock with an arrow in its hip. I believed it to be some sort of seal upon first glance, but to our surprise, it was a horse. But not just any horse, a silky black horse with eyes of gold. Bella began to approach it as she felt sympathy for it. I, on the other hand, could not bring myself to get closer. That feeling of which I had earlier, of dread, it just grew stronger and stronger the more I looked at this thing. It locked eyes with me for a moment, and it was then I became frozen in fear as I saw that its eyes were glowing yellow. This was no ordinary horse, I thought to myself. As I began to beckon Bella away from it, the creature sprang into action, and it lunged at Bella's head. The creature moved with terrifying speed, but thankfully Bella was able to dodge it, as due to her height, she was short, and the beast overestimated its lunge. We both began to run and scream as we heard it clambering behind us. As we ran, I felt its breath on my neck as it was keeping pace, until suddenly I heard a loud bang. Me and Bella fell to the ground as we cowered. All I could hear was the ringing in my ear, and to my delight stood my father and mother. My father continued firing at the beast as I watched it flee back into the lake, and my mom took us inside. The most chilling thing I saw was as it entered the lake, it rose its head out of the water and stared at me with such malice. Its yellow eyes pierced into my soul like daylight through the night. Afterwards, my father hugged us both, and it was then he warned us about going to the lake alone. And from then on, me and Bella were not permitted to unless there was an adult present. He never told me what that thing was, though. Only when Bella asked her grandmother did we ever learn of the creature's identity, the Kelpie. It just makes you wonder, if those exist, what else does? My name is Elena. At the time of this story, I was 24 and had just moved into a new piece of property that I inherited. I had always my reservations about the property. It always gave off this eerie vibe to me. But my family insisted we kept it in the family and not sell it, as it had been in our family for generations. The property sat on a rather secluded spot, near a wooded area out in Maine. My family were some of the first residents to move into the town, and like the country feel, they brought a couple of southerners, now having moved up north. Everything was going fine for me the first few days. My family had lovingly helped me move in, and as a surprise gift, my dad bought me a dog, a German Shepherd named Charlie. Charlie was well trained, and according to my dad, they spared no expense in making sure he'd be a perfect fit for me. I really enjoyed Charlie's company. It helped out with the loneliness of the place. It started 2 weeks, though, after I moved in. Charlie would bark and whine every night as he faced the windows. What I thought was just him hearing the local wildlife outside soon faded after one day I took him out for a walk. As we were out walking, I kept feeling as if we were being watched. That feeling was soon justified when I saw a coyote emerge from the woods. The coyote stared at us, and Charlie began to growl and bark uncontrollably. However, it's not what truly unsettled me. What did that was the eyes of the coyote. The very aura of this thing emitted something so sinister that I felt like I was going to die. I quickly grabbed Charlie's leash, and we sped back to the home. As we did, the coyote trailed behind us, making sure to keep its distance. When I made it inside, I locked the door. Charlie, however, wouldn't stop. He kept barking and growling, but I couldn't spot the coyote anymore. It was as if it vanished. The following week, animals began popping up dead, and I found a deer's head on the porch. It was by the time I called my father and brother over. The two investigated, and my father believed it to be a bear of some sort. However, I saw my brother's reaction to it, and I felt they were hiding something. You see, my family are avid hunters. They've seen carnage and what bears can do. One day, my father took my brother and Charlie into the woods as a recent incident occurred. Another bloody animal corpse. I found large scratch marks on various places around the property as well. I insisted on going with them as I wanted to see what was responsible for the occurrences. As my dad gave Charlie a piece of wood that had been scratched, Charlie led us to a clearing. It was then we heard a deafening howl that sounded like a mix of animals. Only when Charlie growled, it stopped. We stopped there, guns ready, expecting a bear or mountain lion, but to our surprise came the coyote again. My brother shot it, and it was cold. The coyote stood there, unfazed. Emphasis on the stood part. It literally stood up, and then I saw this unholy thing began to morph into some kind of a monster. Charlie began to bark and growl uncontrollably. The thing then lunged for my brother, but Charlie attacked it, and a fight ensued. Charlie fought bravely, but he was no match. In moments, he was being torn apart. My dad ushered us out of there. We ran for what felt like hours back to the house. As we made it in, I looked back outside, sobbing uncontrollably, to just see that thing staring at us from behind, Charlie's head in its hand. The scariest thing was the grin it had on its face as it wiped the blood on its mouth and returned to the woods.